So once upon a time, there was a conference that decided the fate of Africa. We had the European nations sit together to decide what to do with the continent Africa. And so countries came together, 14 countries came together to decide what would be the fate of what we have today as Africa. That is in 1884 to 1885. Africa was divided amidst the European countries, and everyone had a country to colonize. Some had two, some had just one. But the story is mixed up because the European had their own side of the story, and Africa also had its own side of the story to tell. So the book we'll be reviewing on this episode will help us understand how Europe underdeveloped Africa. Well, Walter Rodney, in his book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, tries to give the African side of the story. Most people believe that Europe came to develop Africa, but Walter Rodney is of the opinion that Africa was actually developed before the coming of the colonial masters. Once again, welcome to Book Review with Shalom, a place where you dive into the world of books and ideas. Now, let's continue. We said Walter Rodney's opinion was, for you to say a place is not developed, you must understand the concepts of development. He believes that Africa was developed in some areas where Europe was not even developed in that area. Some of the areas he pointed out that Africans were developed is the fact that Africa had morals. He believes the Europeans were not really a country with so much moral, but Africans had what we call morals. They had respect. They have cultures that help them. He also believed that with or without the colonial masters coming to the continent of Africa, Africa would have developed at a different pace. They might not really be as advanced as we are, but they would have developed at their own pace. He also says that, yes, the colonial masters had their own good side of coming to Africa, but he believed that the motive behind coming to Africa was necessarily not to develop Africa, but was to exploit Africa. He said they took more from Africa than what they gave to Africa. One of his points of argument is the fact that the European masters took more slaves, which were young men who were strong and who could help if they were left in Africa to work and develop their own continent. He said the European masters did not do well. They took these people out of their continent and made them slaves in Europe, whereby Africa was left with no one to develop. And he says that Africans also helped in the development of Europe because they came with their labor power. So, in his book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, he points very important facts to show you that African was not really barbaric. He said we had our way of marriage, we had our way of kingship, we had so many other cultures that really made us genuine Africans. And he believes that if the European master had not come, we would have found our way. But do you really believe that if the European masters were not here, we would have found our way? That is for you to think about. Walter Rodney's opinion is the fact that we'll be able to find our way of communication. He believes that we'll be able to find more advanced way of going to war. But the European masters came and also helped by bringing those things. But the aim was his challenge. If they were here to just advance Africa, it would have been different. So the next time you hear the word development, Walter Rodney is saying, are you just comparing another person to another person? Or is there a standard to explain what development means? Because he believes that underdevelopment and development has been misunderstood. So let me tell you the story of Nigeria before we round up. Nigeria is a country in Africa that has diverse culture. And after the amalgamation, there was a coming together of different culture. Now, most people say that this was for our own advantage, and others say it was for our own. It's not working to our advantage. It is a disadvantage for people. Now, I want you to take a copy of How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, and let me hear your view on the comment section. Do you believe that the coming of the colonial masters was for our advantage or for our disadvantage? Did they really underdevelop Africa or did they develop Africa? Let me hear your view, and don't forget to drop a comment for me on the comment section. I'll be waiting for you. down at the comment section. Thank you so much for staying tuned to Book Review with Shalom. See you on the next episode, and don't always forget to click on the like button after you watch this video. Bye for now.